Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar hosted by Toradex entitled Build Intuitive HMIs for Unmanned Defense Systems Faster using the NXP i.MX 9.5 and GL Studio. As we will see in a few minutes, Toradex hardware and software solutions help accelerate time to market, and I believe that GL Studio does the same on the user experience front. My name is Michael Park. I'm the Director of Sales for North America at Toradex. Let me introduce you to our main presenter of the day, Brandon Griffin. He's a Senior Software Engineer at the DiSTI Corporation, the creators of GL Studio. Before diving into the webinar, let me cover a few organizational points. Please use the chat window on the webinar tool if you have any technical issues and you wish to let us know. Our team is there to support you and assist you with any problems you may have. And also at the end of the webinar, we will do an interactive question and answer session. So anytime now to the end, type up your questions in the chat window and we will pick them up later. The webinar will be recorded and made available for on-demand viewing in the next week or so. With this, let's get started. So I don't want to take too much of our time. I want to leave the floor to Brandon to showcase GL Studio. But for those that may not know Toradex, I think it's probably good to have a brief introduction. Starting with, what do we do? So Toradex is an embedded designer and manufacturer of ARM A-core-based system-on modules. These range from single core all the way up to 8-core solutions. As you see on the slide here, we also can provide custom carrier board solutions should you not want to design your own carrier board. But we can also provide custom enclosures to those carrier boards, as well as having connected services that help you maintain and maintain those devices and the device software once you ship to the field. To dive a little bit deeper into these modular solutions, our system on modules come in many families. You see here, there's like 5 different ones that you're looking at, right? Within a module family, you have pin-to-pin compatibility amongst the different SoCs. So let's make an example. Should you have chosen to start working and start your project on the Verdun i.MX 8 and Mini, and you decide that the i.MX 9.5 is probably the better solution for you, you can switch to the Verdun i.MX 9.5, again, without changing that carrier board. So this allows for scalability amongst various performance and I/O options. And now the common question that sometimes we get, you see all the different families and you might wonder which one fits your needs best. Well, that really depends on what your project requirements are from, again, performance or the I/O needs. And this is my job. This is my job. This is our job here at Toradex to help find that right solution for you. So, of course, please reach out. In today's webinar specifically, right, as mentioned, we're going to be looking at the i.MX 9.5, and you will see actually Brandon working with the Verdun i.MX 9.5 EVK, right? And so this has been the evaluation kit for the 9.5 processor that, as we're speaking today, will have a general availability of Q1 2026. So basically for the last 2 years, this has been what people have been, what Toradex and of course NXP has been promoting for people to start their project with. As you can see here below the EVK, you will see 3 different modular solutions that Toradex is making on this SoC. Now, who's the driving customers that require such modules that we make? Well, we cater to industries and projects that need reliability and long-term availability. So we only select silicon that is available for 15 years minimum, right? And of course, if more than that, even better. So specifically, that would be, as you can see, healthcare, industrial automation, transportation, which may include specialty vehicles, as well as avionics and aerospace. In fact, we position today's discussion on unmanned vehicles as we're seeing a growing number of projects based on them. And, maybe this is a general growth sector that we're experiencing, or possibly this is also the fact that we have solutions that are really fit for this need from a power to power consumption, right? So from a performance and power consumption point of view. And certainly DiSTI with GL Studio, as you will see, have the use cases covered, have especially this use case covered with their UX UI tools. And now to just give you a sense of who Toradex is and some numbers that we are proud of. So we have something like 3,000 plus customers worldwide. We have over 150 employees. And I think soon, the next time we do this kind of webinars, that might bump over to 200 plus as we're getting really close to that number. And we have many proven hardware and software partners, DiSTI, of course, being one of those. We're headquartered in Lucerne, Switzerland. But as you see here, we have offices worldwide to support our global customer base. I myself am part of the North American team with our main office in Seattle. Our custom solutions team is in Toronto. And myself, I'm based in Boston. I don't get my little dot, but it's okay. I'll make do. And now being part of the Toradex US team, I am also happy to announce that we can now offer made in USA options for our modules. So for those of you that are based in North America, but also for those of you that may not be based here, if your project does require, or it would be a nice to have to have the solution be a made in America solution, well, now Toradex can offer that. And I should say that it is an ITAR compliant manufacturing, so that is probably a key point here. Now, hardware is our bread and butter, but of course, hardware is useless without software. And so for that reason, Toradex provides various operating systems that can run on our modules. So specifically for those of you that might be here today, of interest might be things like a Green Hills or a QNX. But as Toradex ourselves, we maintain and we provide two Linux images for you to work with. One is a Yocto reference image, and then the other one being Torizon. So what is Torizon? Torizon is a free and open source offering from Toradex. It focuses on lowering your time to market and can be used out of the box. It is built on the Yocto project, but then utilizes Docker containers or software containerization, let's say, for your applications. This allows to tap into the vast software ecosystem that is Docker, as you can see here on a sort of a top left of your screen, right, with a bunch of different containers. Look, Torizon has no lock-in and can be adjusted to your needs. Torizon also comes with an automotive-grade update client for simple, safe, and secure software updates. These can be either in over-the-air format or maybe through secure offline means. Security for us has been a focus here lately. We help check OS images against known vulnerabilities. We have made it easier for our customers' software teams to implement things like secure boot or data encryption and a lot more. The modern continuous integration and verification processes that we have make sure that every Torizon release is stable. And maybe this slide let's say, dig a bit deeper into the components of Torizon. The two big ones you'll see there, the Torizon OS or the Torizon Cloud update system. As you can see, actually in the bottom there, Torizon is also hardware agnostic. The point here is that our customers can now develop and manage devices in a much faster way, right? And integrated way, I should say. So from hardware all the way to manage this device in the field, it's all very integrated. However, in true Toradex fashion, you can always consider these building blocks, meaning that you can always take parts of this that you think make most sense for you and your project. Good. I would say that that was probably as fast of an intro as I could make into Toradex. And like I said, I really now want to pass the word over to Brandon.
Thank you, Michael. All right, just so to reiterate, my name is Brandon Griffin. I am a senior software engineer at the DiSTI Corporation, specifically the GL Studio team, and I'm excited to uh, show you what our tool is capable of. Before we dive in, let me take an opportunity to introduce DiSTI for those watching who may be unfamiliar. We've been around for just over 30 years now, having been established in 1994. So we have over 20 years of experience in HMI and UI solutions, simulation, embedded, and safety critical. We're also an ISO 9001 small business engineering company with a heavy focus on program management and process-driven workflows. We're actually uh, have over 700 companies worldwide that are using our software. And content built with our software is in over 20 aircraft and spacecraft platforms, as well as over 20 million commercial cars on the road. The tool we're going to focus on for this presentation is called GL Studio. GL Studio is an award-winning 2D and 3D capable HMI tool that excels in a multitude of different use cases, including prototyping, simulation and training, safety critical embedded avionics, automotive, agricultural, industrial, and medical. GL Studio supports cross-platform development, desktop prototyping, embedded system deployment, and safety critical applications. Let's look a little more in detail now at the GL Studio workflow. So starting on the left, development begins by taking art assets that you've created in your favorite tool, such as Photoshop, 3ds Max, Figma, and many others, and importing them into the GL Studio editor. The editor allows you to arrange the art assets, add additional geometry, text, and interactive widgets, and define the functional behavior of the design. GL Studio takes all of that and generates C++ code that it then compiles into an application. The code links against the GL Studio runtime library, which contains the OpenGL implementations for all of the objects in the design. A key point here is that there are actually 3 different GL Studio runtime libraries. There's the desktop runtime, the ES runtime, and the SC runtime. And so the ES runtime and SC runtime allow you to compile the application for embedded hardware. And what we're going to highlight with this presentation is how we've collaborated with Toradex to develop a workflow that makes it easy to build and deploy GL Studio applications to Toradex hardware. In particular, we're going to look at deploying to the Toradex i.MX 9.5 that Michael had mentioned. And so that leads us into our first poll question.
There we go. Yeah, so what UX or UI tools are you using up front?
Yep, we've listed here Figma, Exure, Sketch, Photoshop, and Illustrator, which are some of the most common that we see.
Let's see, I can see answers coming in. Oh, I'm sorry, I'd love to see the real time. Seems like a little battle here for the lead. Okay, something ran away with it. Okay, all right. Let me share the results. Yeah, so Photoshop there at the end really took it here. Looks like a tie for second with Sketch and Figma. Yeah, how do you see these results, Brandon? Are you surprised here, or?
Not too surprising. I would say that Figma and Photoshop are probably the 2 most popular tools we see customers using. So yeah, good to hear.
Okay, okay. Back to you.
Now, before we look at deployment, I'd like to first provide you a demonstration of the GL Studio development workflow in action. For this demo, I'll be showing how to create a simple primary flight display using GL Studio Safety Critical. And so I'll go ahead and find my video.
Here it is.
So got our video now. And first thing we're going to do is create a new project, which we can do from the file dropdown. And we'll select the PFD starter bundle. Starter bundles contain default art assets and other resources for getting started with the project, in this case for a PFD. So now that the project starter bundle is extracted, we are now working in the context of the project. To create the PFD, I'm going to bring in some art assets that were created in another source, in this case Photoshop, so will be relevant for a lot of you watching. GL Studio's art asset pipeline consists of what we call catalyzer objects. Catalyzer is essentially a group of objects governed by a Python script. So when we drag this PSD file into GL Studio, the PSD catalyzer will parse the layers of the PSD file and create associated content in GL Studio. So we can see our design now in GL Studio. In the Geometry tab, we can see that all the layers from the PSD file have been imported as native GLS objects. The beauty of the catalyzer workflow is that we can even make changes to the original source file and see those changes automatically re-imported into GL Studio. So you'll see a little magnifying glass next to the PSD import object. When we click that, it's going to open that PSD file in Photoshop. And now that we're in Photoshop, we can make some changes to the design. For example, revealing the center tick marks and center indicator, as well as hiding the ground and sky objects. And now what I'll show you is if we drag Photoshop so we can see GL Studio, once we go to save the Photoshop file, those changes are automatically going to be reflected in GL Studio. So you'll see now no background or sky objects. Next, we'll go ahead and drag our group to the center of the design. And let's go ahead and click the Run button to see what the project looks like at runtime. The safety critical deployment will generate a Visual Studio project, then generate all the source code associated with the design, and finally compile them into an application. And so here we have our running application already. What's powerful about this deployment system is how rapidly you're able to iterate on your design and redeploy. So for example, let's change the background color to blue to represent the sky and click Run again. Code's regenerated, and we can see already the running app includes the changes that we just made. Let's go ahead and make some further modifications. We'll next create a clipping region so that we don't see this entire tape. We'll only see what's inside the clipping area. To do that, we can go over to our toolbox on the left side and we'll locate the Convert to Clipping Group option. When we click it, it's going to group together the selected geometry into a clipping group. By changing the 3D canvas mode to vertex mode, we can then manually adjust the region that is clipped. In this case, plus or minus 30 degrees is a suitable visible range. The next thing we're going to do is actually have the PFD move at runtime. And so what we'll do is write some code in GL Studio to exercise the different properties of our design. We'll open up the code browser and code editor, and we'll see the properties in the code browser. Those act as the public interface between GL Studio and data from outside the application. We can of course also call the properties from within other code in the application itself. Provided by the starter bundle are properties for pitch and roll. Clicking on them, we can see they contain just a little bit of code already. Pitch, for example, passes a pitch value to the translate property of the group, which then moves it up or down. And similar thing for roll, we're going to rotate our group. Now, important to note is that every object in the code is present in the geometry. So all of the geometry here and our geometry tab can be called from the code. Next thing we're going to do is uncomment some code that feeds ramping values into pitch and roll, essentially ramping them through a sinusoidal range of values. And these are in our calculate function, which is called every frame. So basically every frame that the app's drawing, that code will be called. When we click run and compile again, we can see that the tape is now moving up and down and also rotating. So really quick to add some behavior to our design. What we'll demonstrate next is that GeoStudio is also capable of 3D content. When we switch to perspective mode in the 3D canvas, we can see that although our current content is 2D, the content is all rendered in 3D. To demonstrate this, I'm going to add a ring assist for the pilot that moves on along the Z-axis, so it's like forward and backward. So we'll go ahead and add some new geometry, specifically an ellipse object from our toolbox, and we'll click in the 3D canvas here to place that. We're going to change the draw mode to filled, set the color to amber, and we'll make it no longer solid and resize the radius just slightly. And so we're going to now have this object render in 3D by applying a behavior to the object. To do this, we can click the Browse button in the Object Properties tab, which will show the behaviors available in the project. We just have this perspective group behavior. In GeoStudio, behavior is a templated C++ header file that can apply reusable code to various objects. This particular behavior will render everything within the group in perspective projection instead of the default orthographic projection. So as the ring gets closer, it will appear bigger. As it gets further, it will appear smaller. And notice how there's also a new checkbox in the Object Properties tab there under the Perspective Group section. Behaviors actually allow you to add new object properties to objects. And DiSTI's already created many behaviors which exist as packages that can be added to your project through the package manager. Moving on though, we'll uncomment some additional code which will cycle between -300 to +300 units to move the ellipse forward and away from the camera. We'll click run again to regenerate the code, recompile, and now we can see the new ellipse moving forward and backward in 3D space. Now you'll notice the content is slightly off center, so let's make one more design iteration, and that will be to center everything. Since the window resolution for this app is 1024 by 768, we'll set the location of the content to 512 by 384, which is the center of that resolution. So in the object properties, we'll update the location values here for our perspective group. We'll go ahead and click run again, and we can see now that everything is centered. So that concludes this first demo. To recap, we've taken a look at the GeoStudio project workflow, which allows you to bundle default content such as art assets and code to create a new project. The art pipeline and catalyzer workflow allows you to import art from various sources. And from there, we arrange the content in the Geometry tab in Canvas and use deployments to generate C++ code and run the design as a standalone application. And we also support 3D perspective content and custom behaviors. All right. Okay, so now that we've seen the GeoStudio development process, let's take a look at the deployment process. For this demo, we're going to utilize our one-touch deployment workflow, to rapidly iterate on a project and deploy it to an embedded target via an Ethernet connection. To build the application for the target, we're using our embedded CMake deployment, which is a set of scripts that automate the process to target the hardware and operating system configuration for our board. And so I'll go ahead and switch to my second video here.
And as this pops up, I might be foreshadowing, but I really like this. I really like seeing how fast this is. But
Yep, keep your
the audience
eyes
here can
peeled.
see for themselves.
Yep. All right, I'll go ahead and click play in a second. So for this demonstration, we have a Linux laptop connected to a Toradex i.MX 9.5. And you'll see that already running on the board is a UAV ground control station application built using GL Studio. And what we're going to show is how we can quickly make changes to the project in GL Studio and then quickly redeploy to the board. All right, so I'll click play. So the first change that we're going to make here is we're going to change the background color of the grounds from brown to green. Next, we'll shift the position of the GL Studio logo from the left side to the right side of the app. And finally, we'll switch the positions of the airspeed indicator and the altimeter so that the altimeter is on the left and the airspeed is on the right. So we'll shift those around. After making the changes, we'll then save the project. We'll then click the Build button, which is going to use the embedded CMake deployment to generate the updated source code and build a new application. We'll click the Deploy button to deploy the new app to the target using our one-touch deployment that I mentioned. We can click the Stop button to stop the app that was already running on the target. And finally, we'll click Run to launch the new app on the target. So as you can see, the new app is now running on the target, the i.MX 9.5, with the green ground, updated positions for the logo, altimeter, and airspeed indicator. So that's just a quick example to highlight the speed and ease of iterating on a design in GL Studio and rapidly deploying to your target embedded hardware. Now that we've seen the GL Studio development and deployment process, we'd like to highlight our partnership with Toradex. Ultimately, the goal of the partnership is to provide a workflow where we can rapidly deploy to Toradex hardware content that was built using the proven GL Studio HMI tool. While the demo we just looked at showed how we can use the GL Studio one-touch deployment to deploy to the i.MX 9.5, we've also worked with Toradex to create a rapid deployment to the Colibri i.MX 6. And that's where the Toradex Easy Installer comes into play. So part of our partnership is support for GL Studio applications and demos to be easily deployed using the Toradex Easy Installer. And with that, the Colibri i.MX 6 is already supported, and Easy Installer support for the Verdin i.MX 9.5 is coming soon. For the i.MX 9.5 Verdin EVK, we already have GL Studio ES runtime support for Green Hills Integrity, for QNX, and for Yocto Linux. If you'd like to learn some more about this partnership, please do take a look at the Toradex website here where we have some additional information. In addition to our partnership with Toradex, where we've created that efficient workflow for deploying to their hardware, I would like to note that GL Studio is actually hardware agnostic. So we're able to deploy to practically any operating system and RTOS or RTOS configurations. And here listed are just a small subset of the configurations that we've previously deployed to. So this will lead us into our second poll question.
And so this one will focus on operating systems, right? So what operating system will you use in production? And our choices here, Yocto or Torizon, QNX, Integrity, VxWorks, or PikeOS. And go ahead and answer.
And we realize that there are there are other operating systems out there, but these are some of the ones we see most commonly.
And of course, certainly the ones that we see as well on our side. 80% Yacht or Torizon. That is what at least Toradex sees primarily. But QNX coming in close second there. Really interesting, yeah. What have you seen maybe you guys there at DiSTI, Brandon, more often?
Yeah, we've seen all of these to some extent. Not really a surprise that Yocto is the leader here in this poll. We do see that one quite a bit, and QNX as
Okay,
well. That one's pretty popular.
perfect.
All right. What I would like to now do is provide some additional insight into DISTI's background in UAVs and safety critical applications. GeoStudio is widely used in production of both embedded and safety critical embedded applications. So at Hyundai Mobis, GeoStudio is used in a wide variety of different HUDs, clusters, and IVIs. Jaguar Land Rover standardized on GeoStudio for 9 years for the in-vehicle infotainment across all their vehicles. And then on the safety critical side, we're used in a variety of aircraft, including the simulators for those aircraft. We're going to take a look at some examples of that shortly. To give you an idea of just how widely we're used, here are just a few of our customers. And these are in numerous industries, including aerospace and defense, automotive, outer space, medical, trains, agriculture, and more.
Some logos that we at Toradex recognize there as well.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
In terms of safety critical experience, that's an area where we feel GeoStudio really shines. For avionics, the GeoStudio runtime has been DO178C certifiable up to DAL A, and our code generator is written to DO330 qualification. In the automotive side, GeoStudio has been certified as an ISO 26262 qualified software component up to ASIL D. And then we also have medical and nuclear certifications as well. So this is where our last poll question is going to be.
Yeah, go ahead.
So which functional safety requirement pertains to your program? That is DO178C for avionics, ISO 26262, or perhaps a medical or industrial certification, or maybe it's not applicable to your program.
I was just going to say a lot of our Toradex customer base also doing functional safety. So yeah, let's see. Give it 2 more seconds, and I'll close this poll. See what the answer is here. And okay, looks like avionics takes it with the close industrial behind. I want to say avionics probably a big. It's the reason why we decided this as the choice for our webinar content, right? But probably no surprise for you there, Brandon, as well.
Yeah. Avionics is definitely a really big sector for functional safety. Kind of interesting to see industrial here as well with some popularity. We don't see that one quite as much, but
I'm gonna say the attendees today maybe skew more on the Toradex client base potentially here, because that is probably a 30% is probably a good number for us in our client base in industrial. Interesting.
okay, yeah. So here are a few examples of GeoStudio safety critical adoptions. Boeing uses GeoStudio in their T-7A Red Hawk aircraft, including for simulation. Spiel Praha uses GeoStudio for the heads-up displays in their advanced trainer jet. Scale Composites uses GeoStudio for their HMI display prototyping. And Hill Helicopters uses GeoStudio to create the avionics suite for their luxury private helicopter. There's also several other programs where GeoStudio SC is used that we can't talk about those programs publicly, but what we can say is that we've had a lot of other success with Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and L3 unmanned systems, all in the realm of UAVs. Here are a few of the use cases for GeoStudio and UAVs that we can talk about, including the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, who has adopted GeoStudio SC for their unmanned systems. And then also Northrop Grumman used GeoStudio for multiple ground control stations, including the MQ-8B Fire Scout and the Firebird OPAS. So now just to summarize what we've been discussing, DiSTI has over 25 years of proven safety critical embedded production clusters, HUDs, IVIs, and graphical controls. The GeoStudio tool provides an effective and efficient workflow for rapidly prototyping on desktop, developing human factors and training sims, and creating interactive production displays and controls. We hope you have enjoyed learning about DiSTI, GeoStudio, and our partnership with Toradex, and we encourage you to reach out to us for demos and evaluation. You can reach our sales team by emailing sales@disti.com or contact the 407 number that you see listed here. So I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and now we'll go and take a look at any questions that have popped up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Brandon. Always love to see how you guys are improving your software, and by consequence, it's making life for your customers a lot easier, right, and a lot faster to develop. So let's open the floor to questions. I do see that there is already some in the queue. So as I take a look at that, what came in, let me also bring in Brandon's colleague, Christopher Giordano. He's the VP of UX and UI technology at DiSTI that can assist here as well. Hey, Chris, can you hear us?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Michael. And thank you, Brandon, for a great presentation.
All right, guys, let's see what questions we have. All right. Okay, what is the difference between embedded C++ and safety critical embedded C++ code?
I think.
You want me to take that one, Brandon?
Yeah, I'll let you take that one, Chris.
Sure. So your embedded C++ code is really what's targeting the QM style applications that don't require functional safety. The safety critical embedded C++ specifically was designed for functional safety. And so there's a lot of things that we do in the runtime library and the code generator for safety critical that remove entire potential classes of defects from ever being able to make their way into your design. So there's actually quite a bit of difference between the two.
Okay. Here, let me bring this one up. Does C++ deliver good runtime performance?
Yeah, happy to answer that one. So C++ provides probably amongst the best performance with the different coding languages. It's very close down to the bare metal, and so the GeoStudio runtime is all C++, and the code that you're going to be writing your GeoStudio applications is C++. And we've really put a lot of emphasis on reducing the the runtime overhead and memory footprint of the applications that you're going to be building with GeoStudio. So in some trade studies, we've seen that GeoStudio's performance exceeds that, let's say, of a lot of the competitors that we've had in those trade studies. So,
even hand coding in one instance.
yeah. So C++ is great at performing high performance runtime. Yep.
Cool. Good. Let's get to the next one. Do we get control of the low level code for GL Studio?
Yeah, good question. So as a code generator, we still have all of our API and our OpenGL implementation in our runtime. And you can override any of our base classes, derive from them, create your own version of it. So yes, you have access to very low level code. You can even override our draw, write your own custom OpenGL within the GL Studio tool. So it's a very powerful, very flexible capability that we provide.
Neat. Okay. There's still some more questions, but a reminder for those of you still listening, if you have your questions, write them down. I have my question of I would look up later what a luxury helicopters is. I'm really curious what that is, but that's besides the point of this webinar. So here we go. How does GL Studio support reading and processing inputs from the other sensors connected to HMI?
Yeah, so it really depends exactly what your system looks like. What GL Studio has a C++ public interface we talked about a little bit with our properties, and those are exposed so that you can send in data from other sources. We see, a lot of UDP or CAN bus data you can set up a connection to. And we actually can generate an ICD from GL Studio that lists all of your properties, methods, and variables that you have access to. And if maybe Chris, if you have anything to add to that, you think?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Good. From the tool, how is the runtime installed on the target?
Yeah, happy to answer that too. So when you are using the GL Studio deployments, I showed with our one-touch deployment, it's as easy as clicking the build button and then clicking the deploy button. So when you build, the compiler is going to build that application, and then when you click deploy, it's going to bundle up the application and all supporting resources and deploy that right to the board. So you don't have to manually copy anything over if you're using that workflow. It should be all taken care of for you. Hopefully that answers that one. And then on the previous question, I just would like to make the clarification. I mentioned ICD generating. ICD is the acronym for Interface Control Document. So just to make that clear.
Okay.
Yeah, and keep in mind,
And
if I could add something else there. So the deployment capability is part of our package store as well, and so GL Studio has the Python scripting engine built into it. Brandon alluded to this earlier during the GL Studio demonstration with the package-based system, and so the deployments are package-based, and even kind of leading into this next question, there's a lot of different, very customizable Python-based scripts that you can use within GL Studio to completely customize the workflow and experience.
okay. Yeah, so looks like I have my one last one here. So really welcome you guys to write your last questions. Now, guys, I know that we saw Photoshop, I think, take it there in terms of the replies from our audience here. But I know Figma is big. So this question is a pretty good question. How you demonstrated how DiSTI can integrate Photoshop into its workflow. Is there a similar integration available for Figma?
So the answer there is yes, definitely. We have a Figma importer. And again, similar to what I was alluding to in the last response, the importers are just packages that are Python-based scripts. And so if we're using Figma today and tomorrow you decide to use a totally different importer that we may not even have an importer for yet, you can actually create your own, or we can create it for you. Of course, we'll be there to support it too, but it's a very, very flexible system. And so the answer is yes.
Perfect. Good. Okay. I think we are out of questions. I want to thank, from the Toradex side, I want to thank Chris, you for jumping on here, but Brandon, of course, for showing us the power of Geo Studio. And of course, I want to thank the audience for attending. As I said earlier, the recording will be available in probably a week or so once our team gets that edited and ready to put on our website. Of course, you can also contact Toradex or Brandon and Chris from the DiSTI side. And yeah, let's wrap that up. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Michael. And thanks to the whole Toradex team for helping putting this together.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Have a great day.